Welcome to TBN News. It's the day after the presidential election. Donald Trump is our new president. I'm here with history and economics teacher, Mr. Josh Violette, and art teacher, Mr. John Allen. They've been nice enough to join us and talk about yesterday's election. Hi, guys.
Hi, thank you for having us.
I'd like to ask the both of you your reaction to Donald Trump's victory.
Foreigners first.
Foreigners first. It was not altogether a shock. Well, maybe surprise or shock, I'm not sure which. I kind of was prepared for it, but I was surprised when it eventually became obvious that he was going to be the president. I've been processing it all day, and it's quite a lot to process, quite a complicated mess to deal with in my own head. It reminds me of Brexit, which was the vote that took place in England in Britain just a few months back, which was an unexpected win for the Brexit people to pull Britain out of Europe. And I think this is a similar situation. A lot of people were comparing the two situations, and I think some of the reasons are similar too.
Yeah, and I wasn't necessarily as shocked as a lot of people were. I've been keeping a pretty good tab on sentiments from both sides, and there was a lot of people who felt that they supported Trump, but they didn't necessarily want to go public with that due to how they might be responded to. So I wasn't necessarily very surprised, but I was surprised. I mean, I felt like Hillary was going to pull this off. So when I woke up in the morning and saw that he won, there was a moment of, whoa, but I wasn't very shocked.
Okay. Mr. Violette, why do you think Trump defeated Clinton when all the polls showed Clinton with a lead going into yesterday?
I think a little bit has to do with the people that we're reaching out to for the polling. I don't necessarily think that that was a wide variety of people taken into account in a lot of those polls. But also, I think they overestimated the amount of the minority vote and the woman vote that would have gone towards Hillary Clinton in the election. And if you look at what happened, they didn't necessarily show up in the polls in the numbers that they believed they would have. So that lack of voting from those demographics really hurt her in a lot of the close races.
Okay, Mr. Violette, what does the election say about the American political situation right now?
Well, there's two things that can be said. One, we're very divided ideologically based on geography. And the issues that the coastal and more metropolitan areas face are very different than the areas from the Southwest and Central America. And it's very hard for people to come to grasp with the perspectives of the people from those areas. And that's causing a sharp divide in the electorate. It's causing a sharp divide with Republicans and Democrats, and a lot of that's leading to division. And I think it also is a slightly referendum on the political atmosphere that people are being lied to and they don't trust their politicians. So that gave Donald, Mr. President Donald, an edge because he was anti-establishment. So people who might have been Bernie Sanders supporters that realized that Clinton did have a part in stopping his election or stopping his primary candidacy, they may have shifted their vote a little bit. There were a lot of angry people with politics as usual, and they were looking to make a statement.
Mr. Allen, you were born in England. What do the best of your knowledge has been the reaction outside the U.S. to the election?
I spoke to one of my brothers this morning, actually, and he was shaking his head and kind of laughing. I think there's a lot of bemusement over there as to exactly who Donald Trump is and why he even was in the race in the first place. And I think he's viewed, by a certain percentage of people over there as, oh, well, it's just one of those crazy American things that happen. Because I think Reagan was viewed the same way. And I think W. Bush was viewed similarly also, although he did have somewhat of a political background. I think just from talking to my brother and asking him about, things he's heard, from other people over there, Trump is viewed as a consummate salesman, consummate genius marketeer. He marketed himself. That's how they view it. He's marketed himself brilliantly to a forgotten portion of the population. And I think they sort of are maybe holding their breath thinking maybe he doesn't mean all those things he's been saying. Maybe this has all just been the sales pitch. Now that he's in, maybe we'll see a different side. And that, of course, it remains to be seen. But I think mainly he's viewed as like a carpetbagger or like I say, a salesman, a brilliant salesman who identified the market he was going to go after and tailored his campaign no matter what it required of him. It's like, I guess, the old adage that a salesman will tell you anything in order to get you to buy the product. And I think that's what he's been doing. I think that, and I think a lot of people, from what I can tell in my part of the world where I'm from, believe that's the case as well.
And to piggyback on that, I looked at a few different websites this morning to gauge what the international response would have been. And Britain had gone out and congratulated Mr. Trump, and France was a little more inclined to be disappointed. Germany was a little worried due to some of the platforms he used against them. Palestine was worried. Israel was happy. Russia seemed very eager to work with Mr. Trump towards rebuilding relations. I'm not sure that's a good thing, but those are different responses that I've been able to come across as well.
You just made me think of another thing that my brother said. Over there, when the Brexit vote took place in Britain, of course, famously, President Obama spoke to the British populace saying that, if you go for this Brexit thing, you're going to be at the back of the list as far as the US is concerned. Britain will go to the back of the list for trade deals and so on and so forth. This has turned that entire situation on its head, because now you've got you could say the revamped special relationship between Britain and America, where they've both just gone through these strange, one was a referendum in England and a referendum-like election here. So it's, in a way, you could almost imagine the relationship between Britain and America is stronger now and probably weaker between America and Europe. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
It's similar. It's been poised as a referendum against globalization. Because there are a lot of manufacturing jobs that have gone to other parts of the world. Britain lost quite a few, and a lot of the economies and jobs were lost due to these trade deals that were supposed to help and globalized American policies and economics, but there were some lost employment, there were some companies that left, and there was a hole there that both populist ideas did target as people to get out the vote.
There was a sense that the machinery, as it stood, the political machinery did not care enough about those people that were left in the dust.
Elite.
Both in America, in Britain, and other parts of the world too.
They lost touch with the regular person, which was one of Hillary's faults. That was something they complained about with her.
Right, and that again ties into what I was talking to my brother about this morning, which that he's a salesman. He identified the problem. He identified a area which he could.
And if you do a study of his speaks, just to say this, because what you're saying is true, most of his speeches, when you watch him and analyze it, he's speaking at like a 4th grade reading level. Obviously, he's not going to try to impress the educated or the elite. He was trying to go after the lower educated groups of people that would have manufacturing jobs. He knew what his target audiences was. And if you actually listen to his acceptance speech last night, it was more evolved. There was more to it. So it could be it is the sales.
Let me ask both of you, what do you think a Trump presidency will look like and what policies it will pursue?
You want to feel that one first, or?
Well, since he is a salesman, since he is a businessman, I would imagine that we'll see a focus on the business side of things and an attempt, as he has said many times, to paraphrase him, make America great again. I think what he's saying by that is, bring back jobs. The idea of bringing back jobs is a tricky one because this globalization thing has taken a long time to get to this point. He's not going to have the opportunity to do that in even 2 terms.
No.
But he can certainly create a lot of jobs by rebuilding the infrastructure. And frankly, whether it was him or Hillary Clinton that became the president, I think the infrastructure in this country does need a lot of attention. Because I've traveled over in Europe recently, and I'm always shocked when I come back here after I've been in either the UK or in mainland Europe, how the airports there and traffic systems, everything seemed to be way ahead of here in terms of the technology and advanced sort of use of technology and condition. Of course, America's a much more difficult place to do that because it's a bigger place and it's more expensive. But I think he can immediately, well, not immediately, but almost immediately put a lot of people to work rebuilding the infrastructure, which will make him look good in the eyes of those people that he was appealing to, as Josh said, that need those jobs.
Yeah. And I believe that he's going to go after Obamacare. I think that's going to happen.
Sounds like it.
So he's probably going to try to have a policy with more open borders for insurance companies, so there's competition, because he has that business mind. So he believes competition is the resulting answer to a lot of our economic worries. He's going to try to lower the taxes for companies to try to draw them back in from Europe or Mexico or China. So he's going to try to use that to bring back more manufacturing jobs. I wouldn't worry so much about some of the more social issues that he talked about, mostly because the Supreme Court has ruled, and for him to be able to change that would require a lot, and that's probably not going to happen. And we have to remember that a lot of the major issues that he wants to push through would require Congress to be okay with it, to approve of it. And if Democrats really don't like it, they can do strategies that they can use strategies that were used by the Republicans during the Obama administration. They can filibuster, they can do a lot of different things. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but I think his focus is definitely going to be more on business creation. I've heard he wants to redo infrastructure, but he's thinking about privatizing the national highway system, which I don't think is a great idea. But there are a lot of different things that he's floated around there. He wants to get rid of regulations, which definitely hurts the climate. But again, it's appealing to business. So it depends on where that line will be drawn to bring in those types of things.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I think you're right about the social stuff. I've always seen a lot of that stuff as just being bluster to attract attention. Like
attract or
building
fear.
the wall and all that kind of stuff is bluster to gain attention. But like you just said, the privatization stuff is tricky, and it could be pretty bad if it's
not done correctly.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how you do that correctly when you're dealing with such a large country with a large population.
Yeah, I only saw that in 2 different articles, but I mean, if that is the way that he's going, we'll see what happens.
I am worried about the Supreme Court, I have to say.
Filling the position?
Filling the position, that worries me.
We just hope that the rest are healthy for the next 40 years.
And I just hope that maybe he's not as extreme as he's presented himself to be. I don't know.
Yeah. History would show that he's actually not.
What do you think is the biggest challenge for Mr. Trump to face?
Healing whatever this divide is in America and having people have faith again in the political system. That's an almost unsurmountable task, the way that we're divided. If you look at the reactions on social media today, some may say that it's going to be the end of the world. That's something he's going to need to temper and have people come to terms with the fact that he is the president and they need to somehow be involved in the system, whether they're for his policies or not, but to bring people back in to a trust of the government, which is going to be very difficult.
You lost me there. I was daydreaming about what you were saying, and interestingly, again, just talking to my brother this morning, because it is always interesting to talk to somebody who's outside of the immediate effects of it. He said, well, one thing about that guy is he must have skin like an elephant, because to be able to come back on stage, the national, international stage in front of billions of people, with people knowing what he's said, what he's done, really vile. Some of it's pretty vile, obviously, and I would think for most people it would be incredibly embarrassing. He's shown no sign of embarrassment, so he does have this incredibly thick skin, which could be useful, I suppose, if he employs that in the right way, rather than continuing to be a belligerent person and using it to try to shield him as he goes forward and maybe tries to tack a different course and be more inclusive and suffer the slings and arrows. You might say.
And part of the image that he was trying to portray in the beginning of was he was anti-PC.
Yeah.
So if he responded to a lot of this in a way that wasn't thick-skinned, it would have kind of turned on him for being so upset about a lot of that stuff. But he had to fight through it.
Yet at the same time, there was at least an attempt by various corners to paint him as a thin-skinned individual.
Well, Twitter at 3 o'clock in the morning is a little...
But he really isn't. But I mean, yeah, that's more like he's just... he shows signs of having no discipline rather than being thin-skinned.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. That's all I can think.
Okay. I want to thank the both of you for coming and joining us on TBN News.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
All right.